Good morning, students. Let us start today's session. Right. So, what we have discussed in last session? Anyone? What was the topic that we have discussed in the last session? Right, part objects. Right. So, not programming. Yes, we have discussed a little bit about how we are differentiating, how we are moving towards OOPS. Right. Then we started with something is an object. So today what we are going to discuss is how object is helping achieving the OOPS concept, object-oriented concepts, right? Some of the few things, some of the properties of OOPS. Is my voice clearly audible? Because I think there's an echo right here. I could hear my echo back. Is it okay with you? Great. Okay. So what we'll learn today is understand what an object is logically, more in detail, and along with the concepts of how this object is used in OOPS concepts, right? The properties that you must have heard, modularity, pluggability, and all those things we are going to discuss today. So let us start again from here. So we discussed about an object. Object is something, a real world entity that is modeled into a software object. And that is what we generally, wait a second. Yes. So this is a proper formal definition of an object. An object is a software bundle of related state and behavior. So we discussed what is a state, what is the behavior previously. These objects are often used to model the real world object. So this thing is important. Model the real world object. Whatever we see in the real world, we model them logically that you find in everyday life. We will learn how state and behavior are represented within an object. Introduce the concept of data encapsulation. We will again see what this data encapsulation is and explain the benefits of designing your software in this manner. This is all what we are going to study in this session today. We will finish the objects at least today. So again, definition. Real world objects share two characteristics. They all have state and behavior. So first example, like dogs have states, like they have name, color, breed, hungry. So again, emphasizing here, what do we mean by state basically? So these things are the states, right? Name, color, breed, hungry. So actually, whenever you will be going to model these things into some program, then you will be using something kind like this. Maybe a character array to store the name, a character array to store the color, maybe a character array for breed, boolean or int to store the state hungry. So these are basically the variables, right? They have the data type, this is the name. But we are saying dogs have state. So what do we mean by this thing is basically state is stored in variables, right? State is not variable. We cannot say that state is equal to variable. We say a state is stored in the variable. So at any point of time, like at time t, what is the state of a dog? So name, color, breed might be fixed, but maybe this is changing. Sometimes it is hungry true, hungry false, right? So dogs have a state and we use variables to store the state, right? That is what we mean by state here when we model it in the programs. And behavior are like barking, fetching, or wagging tail. So these are the behavior. So what do they do? Basically, they change the state. You understand it because this is a real world example. We would never try to make a logical component of a dog like this, right? But then again, bicycle is also a real world object, but here we can correlate how behavior is connected to the state. See here, bicycle also have a state. State means current gear, current pedal sedans, and current speed. So something like maybe I said this is integer variable, this is also integer, and this is also integer. So I can say at any point of time t, gear is maybe Third, pedal cadence is maybe 100 RPM and maybe speed is 10 kmph, right? So this is what? This is at any particular time stamp t. Maybe just after this, at t dash, it would be maybe gear is 4, cadence is 120, speed is maybe 11 kmph. So at any time instance, we can see what is the state. State is represented in these variables. They keep on changing, right? State is stored in the variable. The combination of all of these variables denotes that, okay, this is the state right now, not a single variable. So combination of these variables will denote you that what is the state of cycle right now. So cycle is in gear 3, speed of pedal is 100 RPM, and speed of cycle is 10 kmph. Later on this, maybe T minus dash something different, and maybe T double dash would be something else. Then what is the behavior? Behavior is changing the gear. So just think like this now. If we were at time t, how did we move to time t dash? If we are seeing there are three changes here, gear is changed, pedal stance is changed, speed is changed. So there must be some action taken. साइकिल अपने आप तो नहीं चलेगी ना आगे, कुछ ना कुछ हुआ, ये तो कांस्टेंट ही रही थी स्टेट. आइदर द स्टेट वाज एक्जेक्टली द कांस्टेंट और वी हैव डन सम एक्शन हियर. एक्शन मींस मेथड, in English verb, in languages functions, right? That is something that has been done to these variables so they could change their state. Previously they were 3, so maybe I called a behavior change gear and I said pass 4 into it. So what it did, it changed the value of their variable from 3 to 4. So this is the behavior that is applied onto the state, that changes the state. If I say changing pedal cadence, it will do. Previously it was 100 RPM, now I have called that method, it is 120 RPM. That might result in a change in speed automatically, or we say applying brakes. What is applying brakes? Maybe some method that will, what it will do? It will decrease the pedal cadence slowly, decrease the gear slowly, and ultimately your speed would be somewhere around 0. That okay, the cycle is stopped. That is your behavior. So these are three functions or behaviors, what we say, they are responsible to change the state of that object. And this is how state and behavior are related. Is it clear? Any questions, anyone? Great. So identifying the state and behavior for real world objects is a great way to begin thinking in terms of object oriented programming. So we should think for anything that exists in real world, there should be two questions that you should ask yourself, that what possible states can that object be in and what possible behavior can this object perform. These are the two questions that you should ask while you are designing your object. Because remember the last example we discussed about, some students said that individual subject mark, this was the object. Some said report card, some said student itself. So these all are examples of objects, but for any specific object we have to think that what are the possible states that object can be in and what is the possible behavior this object can perform. So we have to think of a state holistically, that what are the fields that are possible inside this. They combine to make a state out of it. And there are some behaviors that actually changes the state. Right? So now type in some examples here about some real world objects or any logical objects that you can think of apart from what we have discussed. The object, what could be the state it can be in and what can be the behaviors it can perform. Type in that section. Everyone, if you give one example, see all of us will have 44 examples with us straight away. Think of an object, do not repeat yourself. What can an object be that you can model? It can contain some state and some behaviors. Type in the chat, everyone. I'm waiting for you to type in, beta. What are the possible objects that you can think that can have states and behavior? Look around you, you will find many objects. Think of the state and the behavior. Customers. So, Divyansh, turn on the mic, beta. Meanwhile, all of you keep on entering the data. Divyansh. Divyansh, are you there? Smartphone state, behavior, make a call, capture, good. Television. Along with parts, type in, along with the object, type in the state and behavior as well. You are not audible, Divyansh, but make sure your connections are correct. Pen, state, color, thickness, light on, illumination, electricity. Neil, what do you mean by this electricity? Just try to think, take some time that, okay, some object, what are the states and behaviors it can have? Clay, state, black, dry. Dhruv, I think for clay, you should say like clay could maybe molded or unmolded, right? State should be crafting it. That could be the example for the clay. Okay, you are saying both of these are the states, black or dry methods. Laptop on off, generating music. State on and off, generating music. Cricket ball state. Cricket ball state is what, Gaurav? Good example, tell me the state for this. State and behavior, Gaurav. Makwana. In swing, out swing behavior. Okay. Okay. So these all are examples of a real world, right? But now you can understand from this. See why I am asking for real world examples. Now, if you think of modeling a cricket ball, these kind of things in a software component, you will like feel how do I model it? Because individually a ball has nothing to do with. There should be some player also to which this ball should be associated. He is the one who is going to throw it, right? Without that there is no significance of this, right? So now you can think of something logical. Database you all have learned, right? Some logical components, the tables for which you make. Think in that term. Tables you all have, DBMS you have learned, right? Student table you have known. So student table has many columns. So that is a state. And there are some procedures that you write to change the state, right? Think in that term now. Any database table entity, whatever you make, that can be always converted to an object, first thing. Whatever database tables you have learned, all of those are the examples of objects. Any table can be one object, whatever you have made till now. If you know DBMS well, then you should have many examples with you. Then, how do you change the records? How do you change the values? So you write procedures there. Those are the behaviors for that particular table. Right? Window state, open, close, transparent, opaque, behavior, opening, closing. Yes. Good. In, out, so is it clear now, all of you? We can never say like when we are saying that, okay, oops means something real world. We are not saying everything is real world. We are just correlating with the real world. That real world things have state and behavior. But when we are talking about creating a program, then we have to actually think of a logical component inside it. Exactly. Like email service, state is email ID, holder name, phone number, behavior received, compose new email, etc. Yes. Then employee. So now this is Nishant has taken example of a table kind of, right? So state as employee ID, salary, designation. Behavior could be change in salary. So maybe some promotion will change the salary. Behavior could be maybe update whatever state it can be, maybe update the address of an employee, any update operations that you make in the table, all of those are the behaviors, right? What we are saying, behaviors are responsible to change the state. So table has a state. Think it like this. If I say a table is an object, you must have learned this thing also. Table also resides in state. Maybe there is some column ID and name. Right now, this is one state of this table. Later on, this table will be in some state different when I say 1x, then 2y. So right now, this table was in state 0 when it was empty, then in state 1, then in state 2. If I enter third thing, it is in state 3. So how did the state change? With the help of an insert command, right? What is insert? A function. So with the help of this behavior, state changed from one to another. Getting my point? This is how this state. So this is the best thing to understand about OOPS in terms of a table. Whenever you need to think of an example logically, think of any database, name whatever table it was, that is an object, and these are the states. What is this ID and name? These are the attributes that together combine to form a state. Together combine to form a state. These are the individual attributes. They all holistically we will say this is in this state right now, later on this is in this state. Maybe later on I update it and I say one is not X, one was Y. This is new state now. And what we did, we made some update operation over it. That update name is equal to Y, where ID is equal to 1. Right? So this is how all of this would be connected. So whenever you are creating a program later on a class you will be creating, this would be one major thing to think about, like how do I model my class? What are the components that can be chosen as an object in my class? And what could be the possible state and what could be the possible behavior that object should possess? So always remember this in the same line. This will help you very much that for having any object, as simple as this, suppose within any class you are going to write a variable A. There should be some methods, set A, int A, this dot A is equal to A, and similarly, there could be another method that can be int get A, return this dot A. We'll see them later, and these are nothing. This is what? An attribute denoting the state of any object, maybe some value A. These two are the behaviors or methods. Now see how they are different. Now we will try to make our program in such a way that no one can directly say this. A is equal to 20 should not be permitted, and printf %d A should not be permitted. No one can directly access the state. There should be always methods who can actually give access to this particular state. So suppose we have a method set A. So whenever I want to do A is equal to 20, I would be doing it like this. Set A 20. So this is the method. This is the behavior which can change the internal value. Similarly, whenever say get A, so it will return with a value this thing. So instead of this printf, I will write get A. How this is going to help me is, can anyone tell me how this is going to help me? Why do we have this thing? That instead of accessing the variable directly, I will be using these kind of methods. And these methods are called as getter and setter methods. Later we will study with access specifiers that all of your objects, whatever you are making, any attributes, they should be private. We'll see it later, do not worry about this. Having it private means they should not be accessed like this. No one can access them like this. But there should be some method which can get and set the values. This is the suggested approach and actually the implemented approach that we use every time. We will see many of the libraries that are pre-built, they will give you these kind of functions to get and set the values. So there is a very strong reason behind this. Anyone want to give it a try? Why do we have the functions? What was the problem here accessing it directly? And why we should have like this? Security, yes. data protection, encapsulation, absolutely. In fact, to be more precise, data encapsulation, right? So we'll come to it in the coming slide. For first thing to understand, see, why do we need this kind of scenario? There are two terms, authentication and authorization. Can anyone tell me the difference between this? Authentication and authorization. What is the difference between authentication and authorization? What is authentication?
Hello, sir.
Yes,
So
Divya.
authentication is like checking the password and granting a login or something like that, sir. Checking the credentials, and authorization is making
Exactly.
sure that the checked person is the same person who is using it.
Authentication is correct. Authorization is not absolutely correct. Anyone else? Thank you, Divya. Or if you want to correct yourself, you can think and tell me. Authorization is have ability to access. Yes. See, how you can think is, Ganesh, can you turn on the mic? Ganesh,
Hello,
hello. Yes, Peter, tell me authorization.
sir. Authorization is to give access to certain individuals that cannot be given
Mhm.
to everyone. Like in a bank, only bank servers are accessible to the manager, not the customers.
This is what? Authentication, authorization.
Authorization, authorization,
Hmm.
and authentication is like I'm logging into a bank account. They require password and ID to confirm that it's indeed me that is accessing the bank.
Okay. Somehow correct. See, you can take example for this. This is, however, not related to this, but yes, we should have all these terminologies with us. Authentication and authorization. Basically, suppose if you log in to Gmail or any Google service, you do login, right? That is what authentication is. Right? Authentication means you are proving yourself that I am an authentic person. This is my identity. You declare your identity. That is authentication. Right? Now, suppose using your Google, you are logged in into the Google, and now you are trying to open some maybe Google Sheet, and you find an error that you are not authorized to see. Right? What happens? Your friend shared some sheet with you, maybe Google Sheet or any document with you, and there's an option to share. While sharing, you click on it, and there's an option whether it is public or anyone with the link or specified users only. Right? All of you must have seen. When you click on share, these are three options. If you make it public, that means no matter, even you do not have to be authenticated. Anyone can have access to it. This is something public like a website. Anyone with the link is somehow within your personal trust zone to whom you have given it. So they have a link, you are taking care of authentication also. But if you say specified user only, then you enter the email xyz@gmail.com. Now suppose abc@gmail.com logged in and try to open this sheet to whom access is with XYZ. He will not be authorized to open that sheet. He is authentic, no problem at all. He is a Google user. Google knows all of his identity. Yes, he is perfect, no problem at all. He might be the owner of that particular service in Gmail, but he is not authorized for this resource. This resource was only given to xyz@gmail.com. So abc@gmail.com is not authorized to access it. He is authenticated, no problem. He is not authorized. Similarly, you can access your own email services, your own email, while you are authenticated by Gmail. So that is what you are authentic, but you are not authorized to access someone else's email, right? You must have seen one more thing in Gmail that you can give access to other email ID that they can read your emails. In settings, you will see, I do not remember the name of the service, on behalf of, these things come there, on behalf of. Whenever you send an email from that, you will find this written there. So that is basically authorization. You are authorizing someone with a different email ID who can read all your emails. Yes, I remembered it. It is a delegation. You can delegate your accounts to different accounts. That is authorization. You are authorizing someone else to do this thing. Right? You go to bank with a check. Right? You go to bank with a check. So if it is a, this is a self check. Self is written on the check or name is written on the check. So if you go there with a self check, they will ask your Aadhaar card to authenticate that, okay, you are some legitimate person who can have access to this. And the check is self, so you are authorized to take money out of it. If it is an account driven check, 2 marks are there, then you are not authorized to have a cash out of it. It will only be transferred to some account. That is what is the basic difference between authentication and authorization. Clear? Right? So this is the basic difference between these two. So why we were discussing it here is basically, if this is some resource, now imagine this is that resource, this int a resource. I do not want to make it public that anyone can just come into my program and can access it. What I want is, I want to have some functions. Because it is a function, I can write my logic here. Like if username is equal to this and whatever I want to enter, only then do this, otherwise do not. I can control whether this value should be changed or not. Someone is asking what is the value of A. You can say if that someone is he or he has some token or whatever it is, all conditions, then only return this, otherwise return 0. So the function helps us to control access of this particular resource. No one can directly get access. It can be controlled by a function. That is why we use behavior. Another good example to understand this thing. Again, the best example is we ourselves. We are also real world entity, an object. Right? I have some variables in my mind. Right? Whatever I'm telling you, that this was in my mind. Through my behavior of talking, I'm delivering it to you. Yes or no? And through your behavior of listening me, you are getting it input into your mind. Whatever I'm saying, it is being stored somewhere in your mind. Temporarily or permanent, that's a different part of the story. Right? But through the behaviors only, I'm able to communicate to you. Whenever we say what is communication, what is the definition of communication? We say communication means exchanging ideas. So this is basically transmission of information from one brain to another. That is what a communication is. It can be written, verbal, sign language, anything. Right? So whenever I'm saying anything, you are getting it, you are hearing, you are getting it through your behavior of hearing. And then you are thinking and storing it somewhere in your mind. Have you watched the movie Inception? Inception movie. Right. So what was the USP of that movie? Why I'm correlating it here? Anyone? If you can guess. What was there in that movie? Inception? Planting an idea can cause a butterfly effect. He plants dream in people's minds. Exactly. So now you can, was it good? If it happens really, will it be good? If it happens really in the real world? Absolutely no. Right? For Divyasum it is yes. But actually, ethically if we talk, Divyasum will also say no. This should not be there. Same thing is happening with the DNA policy that is happening in the world, that there should not be DNA manipulation because it would significantly affect the upcoming generations. Same was there in the case of an Inception. So what was happening is he was planting dreams into people's mind. That is basically what you can understand from this is mind has some variables, maybe with the name memory, that contained some values. We were directly accessing it through some interface. That memory is equal to whatever we wanted to do, and it was getting changed. Right? This is what was happening there. So what it will do basically, it will, whatever someone else who has direct access to variable, into the state mind, he can change these values and he can make this person perform anything, whatever he wants. And this is absolutely not ethical. And when we talk about any language such as Java, they ensure that whatever is in the real world, the flows of real world, they should never come here. So these things should be separated. This should not be allowed in programming at least. Right? So what is the nature's way of exchanging the things? That is through behavior. There should be behavior. If you want to plant something to their mind, you should talk to them. He should listen to you. And then he should persist into his memory. This is the nature's way of communication. We should not have direct access to it. So what happens is, we listen to someone. If you want to ignore it, हम कहते हैं एक कान से सुना दूसरे से निकाल लिया. So this is the behavior. Again, our own implementation. Everyone listens to everyone with his own implementation. आपकी कोई बात seriously लेता है, कोई नहीं लेता है. Everyone has their own implementation of listening you. Right? The same will happen here. For objects also, we do not want anyone can directly access this variable. There should be some listening and talking through which these things should be accessed. No one should have direct access. Right? Okay. Moving ahead. You will notice that real world objects vary in complexity. So your desktop lamp may have two possible states, on and off, and two possible behaviors, turn on and turn off. This is a simple example. Another one is your radio. Radio might have additional states, on, off, current volume, current station. And behavior could be you can turn it on, turn it off, increase the volume, decrease the volume, seek, scan, and tune. These all are the behaviors. You can understand from here. Using turn on, you are changing the state to on. Using turn off, you are changing the state of off. Increase volume, you will change this variable. Decrease volume, again same variable. This would be something volume plus plus. This would be something volume minus minus. Seek, scan, and tune. Different functions. Right? Again, their own implementation. Seek will go to some particular station to change this value. Scan will automatically start from 87.5 and will go to your 107 frequency, and it will find out all the stations in between. That is your scan. And tune is maybe manually you are tuning it. Seek is you say, okay, search for 98.3. Tune is you go to 98.3. So these all could be different behaviors, but ultimately these are the states that are going to be affected with these behaviors. We are talking about the complexity. So you may also notice that some objects in turn will also contain other objects. Now tell me the example of this thing. Some objects in turn will also contain other objects inside them. Tell me some examples of an object containing an object. Student object can contain subject mass, yes. Box containing shoes, yes. Box is an object, it can contain shoes. Absolutely correct. More examples? Only few students are responding. Where are rest of all? Yes, beta, more examples. Object inside object. Look around you, you will find many things. Table containing rows. No, Lavanya, we have already said that okay, table is maybe an object, but if we say a row is an object, then we will say yes. Okay, I got your example. Sorry, correct, Lavanya. Ganesh, society containing residents, bag containing books, yes. Perfect. So, university object containing student, absolutely correct. So, some quick examples, maybe we can say a fan, like all of us have seen. We know fan contains capacitors, fan contains a motor, it can contain a wire, rod, its fins, blades, whatever we say, right? So what are these? These are again capacitor is again an object. Motor is again an object, wires are objects, rod are objects, its blades are also the object. Fan itself is an object. So you should Can anyone guarantee that a fan which is in your room, like in this classroom, the fan is of Bajaj, right? So can I guarantee that this fan, the Bajaj has created capacitor, motor, wire, rod, and everything? Can we ensure this thing? The same company is manufacturing all of the components? No, right? So from here you will start understanding the pluggability and modularity things. A fan is an object that is basically the integration, or we can say aggregation. Fan is the aggregation of these many things. If they are aggregated in proper manner, then a new object is composed of, that is called as a fan, right? And these are individual objects that are maintained by someone else. Maybe capacitors are made by Crompton Greaves, motor is made by maybe Bajaj, Havells by wires by Havells, rod by some XYZ, and blade by maybe some ABC. These could be the brands which are making these own things. So they are individual objects coupled, or we can say encapsulated inside a single body, and that single body is what we call as a fan. Terms will start coming now, and you will understand this thing, that these things are very much correlated when you see them. All of these terms, there's a very big difference between all of those. So let us go to the next one. Software object is conceptually similar to real world. They too consist state and behavior. An object store its state in field. So this we have discussed. An object store its state in field, the variable, and expose its behavior through methods. So these fields are maybe setted or getted through some behaviors. These values are changed, exposed through some method, right? Method operates on the object's internal state and serves as the primary mechanism for object-to-object communication, right? So there could be two different objects. There is a function in between that helps communicate these two objects. So their internal states can be changed. For example, if I'm talking about a fan, these all are the different objects. So they possess some behavior. There's a way how they are connected. I will say, okay, the positive terminal of capacitor will go to maybe the positive terminal of motor. A live wire will go to the motor separately, and they together will combine to form a motor is revolving. So these, what are these? These are the behaviors through which capacitor will send something to motor, and then motor will perform something. That is the current in this case, right? So whatever functions we have, like the example which we have seen previously, get A. This is the behavior by which I can get some values. Set A. I can pass in some values. So these are the behaviors, these are the connecting nodes by which all of these objects communicate to each other. And what they are going to do ultimately, if they are communicating, suppose I say set A after getting B. This is some other behavior of some other object, set A. First it will get from one object and then it will set to other object. So this will act as a chain to connect all of these things. So method operates as an object internal state will be changed, and it will serve as the primary mechanism for object-to-object communication. Then comes the first definition, that hiding internal state and requiring all interactions to be performed through object method is known as data encapsulation, a fundamental principle of object-oriented programming. So again, this is the thing. Hiding internal state, we are making it private. We'll understand how to hide, right? This we'll discuss later. But for now, you can imagine, we write private before any variable, it is hidden from the outside world. So no one can access it like this. We are hiding it. And it is only exposed through these two methods. If you want this value, you have to authenticate, authorize yourself. If you want to set this value, you have to authenticate, authorize yourself, whatever function is written. So we are hiding the internal state and exposing it through some predefined method. And that is the fundamental principle of encapsulation, data encapsulation. Right? Great. Moving ahead. see here, again to understand the same thing, for the bicycle example. This is a bicycle object that is modeled as a software object, right? Whatever you can see inside, these are what? These are the internal states stored inside some variable. So you can imagine these shapes are nothing but the variable. So this is somewhere 89 ph. This is the speed, maybe. This is pedal sedan, and this is current gear. These are the variables. There might be any other, but we are just considering these three. Okay, and you can see it is covered from all the sides, and there are these things. So no one can directly come inside and say, okay, let speed is equal to 10. Not possible. We have restricted. There is an outer layer there. What is the outer layer? We have the methods. They are the one who can give you and take the values from these, who can change these states. So maybe if I want to increase the speed, I will say, okay, call this method and set R to 200, and also change the gear, set gear to maybe 5th, if it was 3 previously. So what will happen gradually? Its speed will increase. So through these behaviors only we can increase the speed. If I want to stop it, I will say apply brake. What apply brake will do? It will slowly reduce the gear minus minus, speed minus minus, and ultimately speed will go 0. And once your speed is equal to 0, it will no more do this. So what we are doing? We are trying to change the internal state using the behaviors provided. If these were not there, then these variables were exposed directly, and anyone can just change the values. One example, a realistic example that you can think of here is, all of you must have seen that gear bicycle, right? So if there are maybe 3 gears on the left hand side and maybe 6 gears on the right hand side. If you are gear 1, no problem, you increase to 2, you increase to 3. After that, if you press it, it will show some resistance. You will not be able to press it after 3rd gear. Why? Because that machine that you see there that changes the gear, that is basically the behavior to change the gear. There is a clip attached that will not allow you to go beyond 3. Similarly, if you go down, come to 1, and then you try to reduce more, again you will feel some resistance there. It will not allow you to go below 1. That is what? That is controlling, that you cannot go below 1 or above 3. Are you getting my point? Right? In bicycle, you must have observed, if you are changing the gears, you cannot go above 3, you cannot come below 1. Just imagine if there was not that machinery to change the gear, then maybe you always landed in your chain would be not onto that spike, right? It will always go above it. If there was no restriction applied that after 3 gear it is not supported by this bicycle, you cannot go it. So that is a behavior that controls how the state can be changed. So using that machine on your bicycle, you can control what gear can you be in. You can only be in 1, 2, or 3. If you try above that, apply more force, it will break. Code will also break. Right? In case of codes, it will also break, or it will not allow you. It will throw an exception and all those things. Same happens in the real world. But if there was no function, then it would be a problem. So Lavanya is asking, sir, if someone is able to identify the behavior, can they access the variable and change object values? Yes. So this totally depends, Lavanya, on your implementation of that function. Within the function, whatever you have written. So what is hacking basically? Hacking is finding the loopholes in any program. If you are able to find the loopholes, that there is some function that can be maybe manipulated in certain ways, then yes, you can access that system. And that is why we need more security to be imposed upon. So if you are writing your program in a very organized way, you do not expose any state, then yes, you can achieve this. I will give you one example here. I am an employee, object of an employee class, right? I am a person, I am a faculty, that's a different thing, but I am also an employee. I have some salary, right? Now, I am the object of some class that is, and this object is me, my salary. I have some behavior, some methods. Who can access my salary? Can you people people access my salary? Tell me. Is there any way you people can access my salary? No, right? Because you do not have any exposed behavior. But if some student is so much into that they want to know my salary, yes, there are loopholes. You can from somewhere get my PAN card. You can look into what tax do I pay. Out of that, you can calculate. Okay, this if he is getting this much amount of tax paid into 80% of this should be his salary. So you can estimate that thing, right? So this is the loophole in the system that I am giving you the example of. Directly, you do not have access. But suppose if I say there is some requirement that I need to give access to you, what I have to do? I have to just say, okay, if any this variable, whatever my this variable is, right now the accounts department of UPES can access my salary. Obviously, they are the one who are crediting it, so they can always access my salary. So they can access because I allow them. If I do something like now, they cannot also see. So maybe I will make 2-3 fake accounts. Out of those, I would be transferring money from here to there, whatever it is. It's on my implementation to hide my data. Whenever I'm declaring anything, when I sign the contract with any university, there it is written, who will have access to my data. Similarly, like when you install any application, they have written some behavior that can take data from your mobile phone. If there was no behavior such that, they can never have access to your data. Right? If you are more into technical readings, you must have seen these days there's a war between WhatsApp and iMessages of Apple. Apple has said that in their current release of software, they are not going to give you the exact location of your customers. They will just give you a best possible estimate where the customer is. And Facebook is saying that 60% of my client will lose the business because of this. They will not get proper personalized advertisement. So because Apple has changed its implementation, if Apple is not giving the data to someone, it is not willing to give data from iPhone to any other application, then no one can take it. So whatever breaches happen, that happens from the core design, from where it is built upon. Android, on the other hand, gives all the open access. Anyone can see the code. You can easily find the loopholes behind it. Whereas for Apple, it is not possible to find the loopholes unless you try a lot and lot and lot. Okay, so all of this depends upon how better design you are going to make. Got it? Lavanya? Lavanya, yes. Is it okay, beta? Great. So this all starts from the better design. It is not like these things. I suggest that most of you have already read, and someone has also in other classes, only in one lecture this should have been finished. But I'm taking so much of time because we want to be fundamentally strong. Later on, when you will see some things in upcoming Java things, I will tell you about notify, wait, and object. You will understand everything at a single statement if you are getting these things, how all entire Java is working. So that's why we are taking so much of time in getting these things clear. So what is an object? So again, bundling code into individual software components provides a number of benefits. First thing is modularity. So these are your OOPS properties that we need to understand. What is modularity? The source code for an object can be written and maintained independently of the source code of other objects. Once created, objects can be easily passed around inside the system. This modularity and pluggability are very much connected together. See here in this example. See, when we want to build a fan, we need capacitor, motor, wire, rod. So Crumpton Greaves is parallelly working to build a good capacitor. Bajaj is parallelly working to build a good motor. Havells is building good wire. Whenever a new brand comes in, maybe right now all of them are at version 1. They can parallelly say, okay, I have some optimized bladeless motor with version 2. So later on, we can also have a fan with version 2 that contains capacitor of version 1, motor of version 2, wire of version 1. So what we are doing, these things are parallelly evolving, and we are actually connecting, integrating them to build our own system. Later on, we found out, okay, this is not good. This is not working fine. 1 mahine mein kharab ho gaya. We can just remove it and bring the old version 1 again. This is pluggability. आपकी गाड़ी के अंदर कुछ खराब होता है, so you do not change the entire car, you just change that particular component in your car, right? So modularity, again, one example more for modularity could be, suppose we have to make one program that will print Fibonacci series. A very simple example. A program to print maybe some pattern, a diamond pattern or anything, to find a prime number, to maybe print some factorial. So what you do basically, you write a program in C, you say switch case, switch input, case, these all are the cases. So how you can implement this is, now suppose this was given to 4 students. So instead of one student writing this after one line after another, what you can do, one student is writing a function Fibonacci. Other student is saying, writing a function pattern. Someone is saying find prime. Someone is saying find factorial. So what do we mean by this doing someone? They can do same at the time t. If writing this entire program took 4 minutes, if done sequentially, then parallelly maybe 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. All of them, we have 4 resources, 4 students. They can actually create this entire program in 1.5 minutes. Maybe 1 minute for individual to write and half minute to integrate all of this. And instead of 4 minutes, this is what parallelism we are achieving because of modularity. We divided our bigger problem into smaller ones, and those can be resolved parallelly. We can then integrate them to get a complete solution. Same is happening here as well, right? That is modularity. What is information hiding? By interacting only with the object method, the details of its internal implementation remains hidden from the outside world. Very good example for this. All of you must have seen in your early days, there were toys, right? And electronic toys, basically Chinese toys to be specific. So maybe some car or boat or anything. If it is not working, if some of you have tried to open it, you will find there is a chip inside that contains a big black glue kind of a thing over it, covered with a black thing. You just have a chip that is totally covered with black. It has some points that, okay, connected to 3 volt, plus minus, connected to speaker, connected to light. These were the things connected. You thought that I will repair it, and you suddenly find out that, okay, on this chip there is nothing but a complete black kind of a glue which is there. So what happens at the time? Have you seen this thing? The toy is having a chip that contains a black spot onto it. So what is this basically? This is information hiding. If you were able to see, if you even try to remove this, you will not find anything. It will get all of the ICs out of it. You will not ever find what ICs were there, what is the circuit of this. So what is this? This is information hiding. Whatever was the circuit that has been hidden, you are given an object that, okay, take this object with you. You just connect power supply, speaker and light. Your car will start working. This is what the intention was. Only behaviors were provided. How you can connect it to the outside world. Whatever internal implementation is hidden from you. Same happens here. If I declare a variable private, no one can see it. You just provide get A, set A, that you can access it. Nothing else can have access to this variable. Right? That is what we call as an information hiding. In your mobile phones also, if you see, developer mode is there. So if you open the developer mode, then you have additional functionalities. You can start using ADB on your Android phones. There is factory mode also. In Samsung phones, there is safe mode also. So all of these are the different modes at different levels who can access it. If you take your car to the workstation, they will connect one adapter below the steering wheel, and they can get entire data of your vehicle. That what was the last reading, how much emission is it showing, this OBD, onboard diagnostics, right? So that is basically a universal port that is given in the vehicle. That is not for your use, for the end user. That is for the workshop usage. After that also there are some things that are not given to workshop. If there is something problem with EMC in your vehicle, then a specialist engineer will visit to the premises of your service center. He can only debug that ECU, right? So same thing. Every level has different access. Who can access those things? Because if everyone can access the ECU, then you can modify your car whatever way you want it, right? A car having an ABS and a version of the car that do not have ABS. The difference is only of those sensors that will hardly cost around 3,000. But the major thing resides there inside this ECU unit, whether that sensor is supported in the software or not. If it is not supported, you cannot upgrade your car to have an ABS inside it, even after applying the sensor. So these are all interfaces that are providing. This is what information hiding is. You want to give your access to someone who can use it. So it's already 10. I'll quickly finish it. Two more things. Code reuse. Code reuse basically, if someone has written the code already, you can just extend it. Something will come later like an inheritance also, or maybe the ready-made object. You can again make some changes inside it. So that is also provided with the help of an object. You can reuse the code. Okay, if there is already a capacitor available and you want to enhance its energy efficiency, you just have to get the previous code, implement new things inside it. You do not have to write from the scratch. That is your code reuse. And pluggability, as we discussed, if a particular object turns out to be problematic, you can simply remove it from your application and plug in a different object as its replacement. This is analogous to fixing mechanical problem in real world. अगर गाड़ी का बोल्ट ब्रेक होता है तो हम गाड़ी चेंज नहीं करते, बोल्ट चेंज करते हैं. So thank you. You must be in another class to go. Thank you very much. Good day.